Hey everyone. Sorry we're running a little bit behind tonight, but I'm hoping people are still able to tune in as we get started. So sorry for the delay. Hopefully YouTube will let you know we've started. Just a little bit behind today. So I'm letting people get on. Let's see. Okay. All right, so while we're waiting for some people to pop in, I'll go ahead and introduce who we are, what we do, kind of intro ourselves like we always do, just in case you catch this video before you catch the previous ones. We are Gaeltacht Greenville, a Irish language group that's based out of Greenville, South Carolina, and we're dedicated to getting resources out there for Irish language learning to people in our area, and of course anyone else who happens to watch these videos or sign up for resources, things like that. So the main place that we communicate with people is through our Facebook page, so Gaeltacht Greenville on Facebook. You can search for us there. So hopefully that will, be able to connect you with us if you want to sign up for our emails or anything like that. Okay. So sorry again, we've had a few people pop in. Sorry for the late start, guys. I was running a bit late, but sometimes that happens. So I hope everything will go smoothly tech-wise. We don't have any more technical errors. But let's go ahead and take a look at our Cora. So Leah was not able to be live with us, but she was with me earlier today, and she helped me record the Cora. So you will have her Munster pronunciations as well as my own going through the Cora and the folklore. So let's go ahead and do that, and I will go ahead and start that. All right, so let's take a look at the Cora. And this time, Clara is back in her home in Anderson, and she's reading part of a bedtime story to her young son, Kian, after getting home late from work. So let's take a look at this. And Leah, if you can be Clara, and I'll be Kian.
That sounds good. All right. So I'm Clar, the mommy, and I say, time Savala.
Mommy, lay louder, lay the home.
Kakita hien, onkel an our shop, Kerkalor.
Ta, is mala me an Kiansha.
Kerkalor. Lavan, Rushik Sean Og. Churshe a edier agus dishe Vrikfasta. Vi skaitinier, enov, vi she dogadi an zoo.
Tá anmhatha ag an zoo.
Tá cearta good. Ag an zoo chunig Sean Og áthirtar, trí elephant, ceithre hiagar, agus cuaig giraffe.
Agus ansin cad a harla.
Hiúil na turtar gur máil, dul na elephanti isce, chadal na hiagar an bhéir, agus did na giraffe dualóga. An sin chuig Sean Og avala, ba lá ma é. Sinning an dera.
Bhí sé sin go maith, ba bhrálam na tíogar. Ihe bhá, mummy.
Ihe bhá, store.
All right. So this one is kind of long, obviously. Some lines are obviously much longer than others because it's part of a story. But let's go through the folklore and then we'll go back through our Cora. So the first one, Leah, if you can read the Gaeilge and I'll read the Béarla.
Sure. So we start with Savala or Sawala if you're in Connacht.
Means at home, literally means in the home, but it's one of those phrasal things that is very idiomatic for this particular phrase. It's just something you have to memorize. So at home doesn't become egvala or Egbala, it would be savala, so in the home.
And then sa.
Sa, it means in the, so it's a combination of the two words, I, which is just an I for in, and un, which is an for the. It kind of smushes together and transforms into sa. All right.
Then mommy or avami.
So that's right here. The correct vocative here is avami or awami, depending on your dialect. And it means mommy or mummy, in the British way of saying mummy. But that's what it means there. And obviously, since Kian is a small kid, he may not put the in there and just shorten it. But the correct vocative way is to put the and the H in there for vami or wami. All right.
Leg lower.
Read a book. This is the imperative to just one person. So it's literally saying you read a book or read a book to one person.
An lower sha.
This book literally translate to the book this. When you use a noun, just as a side note, when you use a noun and you want to say like this thing, you actually have to put the word the there in front of the noun and then put this at the end because it's treated like an adjective. So just keep that in mind. So when you want to say this thing, it's not rodsho, it's unrodsho. So you'd have to put the in there. All right, so next one.
Carrot galore.
Means okay. So it's used in the same way in English we would use the word okay, but it literally translates as right enough.
Unkyan sha.
This one. So again, we have un there with sha, and kyan means one, like one thing, specifically, not one person or anything like that, but one thing. So it means the one, this, literally.
La avan or la awan if you're in Connacht.
One day.
Chushig she.
He woke up. So Groshig is past tense. He for woke, and she is he. So again, the verb comes first. So Groshig she, or you may hear Groshi she. Either one, depending on dialect.
Chershe blank air.
So this is a kind of a phrase where you can fill in the blank, and it means he put blank on him. So air, AR means on, and you have to conjugate it with the pronoun. So it's AIR is on him. So I put an H here after the R in the pronunciation because the R is slightly breathy when there's an I in front of it, an I or an E in front of it. So rather than being a hard R, such as AR, AIR becomes a little bit breathy at the end. So it's a slight difference, but it's just something you can practice. He put blank on himself. So that's putting on clothes usually.
Eadig or eadi.
Let me put that there. So that's right. So it can be 80 or adig. So his clothes.
Dishe.
He ate. So I means to eat, and it's conjugated in the past tense. So ate he, which translates to he ate.
Breakfasta.
Breakfasta. Let me change that here. Okay, just a slight difference there. All right. So breakfasta is what it sounds like. It's breakfast.
Yep. Skaitimini.
Skaitimini. Excitement. I have heard it pronounced sketamini, but I probably need to include the other one. So sky. Let's see, how would I put that? sky. Let's see. I can put that there. Okay, that works. So excitement. And then V, oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm getting ahead of myself.
V skaitamini air.
He was excited. So I believe in one of our previous lessons, we talked about emotions are usually on you. So we're using air here conjugated with the pronoun, obviously, for on him. So it's literally excitement was on him.
Gaeilge an zoo.
And this is going to the zoo. It uses goody for to or towards. And this is only used when the noun afterwards has un in it. Otherwise, you would just use ga by itself without the d. So, edol goody unzu. And the next one.
Anvaha.
Anvaha, animals. So this is the plural of animal, and it's animals.
Tá ceartagat.
You're right. This one isn't a fully direct translation. It means like rightness is at you, or you have correctness, or you have rightness. It doesn't translate well, but it basically means you're right.
Chunnik sé.
He saw. So chunik is the past tense of fek, which is to see. It's irregular, obviously, and it's he saw.
An turter or na turter.
The turtle or the turtles.
An elephant, na elephanti.
The elephant, the elephants.
An tiger, na tiger.
The tiger, the tigers.
An giraffe, na giraffe.
The giraffe, the giraffes.
Agus an sin.
And then,
Cada harla.
what happened?
Hiúil sé.
He walked.
Dul sé.
He drank.
Chudal sé.
He slept.
Gamal.
Slowly.
Ishka.
Water.
Aaron Ver.
On the grass. And we'll talk a little bit more about why the word fair, which is grass, gets that eclipsis, the BH in front of it in just a little bit.
Diloga.
Leaves.
An sin.
Can mean then or there, depending on the context.
Chuig sé.
He went.
Avala or awala.
Home. It's this word is only used when someone is coming or going to home. When you're in the home, you say savala or sawala instead. But avala or awala is when you're progressing to home.
Shine.
That's it, or that's. If you continue the sentence after that, it becomes that's something. But just on its own, it means that's it.
Andera.
The end.
Ihava or ihawa.
Good night.
Astor.
Dear, darling, or dearest, depending on how you translate it, but it's a term of endearment. All right, I think that's it for the folklore. Now let's read through the Korah. Leah, if you can read the Gaeilge, and I'll translate to Berla as we go.
All right. So Clara begins with Time Savala.
I'm home.
Mommy, leg lar ledahal.
Mommy, read a book, please.
Gakinta hien. Ambulan lar sha, kerkalor.
Certainly, Kian.
Oh,
Sorry, that's okay. It just takes me a moment to read through it. Is this book okay?
Tá, is málam an cean seo.
Yes. And just remember, as a side note, that answering yes in Irish means you're just saying is back to the sentence, the same verb in the positive form. So, yes, I like that one, or this one. I like this one.
Cear go leor, lámhán dhúisigh Seán óg.
Okay. One day, Sean Og woke up.
Chuir sé éadaí agus duit sé bricfrásta.
He put on his clothes and he ate breakfast.
Bhí scaid tíní
He was excited.
I nómh bhí sé ag dul go dtí an zoo.
Today, he was going to the zoo.
Tá anmhaithe ag an zoo.
Animals are at the zoo.
Tá ceart agat.
That's right.
Ag an zoo, chunig Seán óg 3 huirtear, 3 elephant, 4 hiagar agus 5 giraffe.
At the zoo, Sean Og saw 2 turtles, 3 elephants, 4 tigers, and 5 giraffes.
Agus an sin cad a tharla.
And then what happened?
Shiúil na tuirtear go mall.
The turtles walked slowly.
Dul na elephantí isce.
The elephants drank water.
Chadal na tiagar an bhéir.
The tigers slept on the grass.
Agus dit na giraffe dualóga.
And the giraffes ate leaves.
An sin, chuig Seán óg a bhalla.
Then Sean went home.
Ba lá maithe.
It was a good day.
Sin é an deire.
That's it, the end.
Bhí sé sin go maith.
That was good.
Ba bhrálam na tiagar.
I love the tigers. Sorry, I love the tigers.
Ihe bha, mommy.
Good night, mommy.
Ihe bha, a store.
Good night, dear. All right. All right. So let's take a look at that. All right. So let's take a look at the pointy grammar for this time. Let me set that up. Sorry, it only lets me say share the time. So pull that up for all of you. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So there's one main thing I want to focus on this time, whereas you know, there's going to be a couple of extra things included as well, but the one main thing is this first one. So let's take a look at that. So actually, let me switch it to this. Okay, that might be a little better. You can see me too. All right, so here we're wanting to focus a little more on past tense verbs. So we touched on it just a little bit as an introduction last time, but here we're going to look at it more in depth. I'm going to lay out the rules for conjugating the past tense. It is probably the easiest tense to conjugate into. That's why we're kind of starting there. Most lessons do start here. The present tense has a bit more variance to it. It's not always going to be as cut and dry as the past tense, so we're not focusing there just yet. But of course, you know, you can usually use ta for a lot of things in the present tense if you need to. But here we're going to look at the past tense. So we're going to look at regular verbs in the past tense, not the irregular ones this time, though one of our folklore words here in this Korah is a irregular verb. So I think, actually, no, two of them are. So Hunak and Hui. So those two are irregular forms of their verbs. So they do change what they look like and how they're pronounced. So the regular verbs, again, there's just 11 of them. English has has hundreds of them. Other languages have over 100 of them most of the time. But Irish only has 11, so only 11 to memorize and get used to. So that's good. So here are the rules for conjugating past tense. Let's see, and we are going to touch on negatives and questions as well this time, where we didn't last time. We only looked at the affirmative. So number one, start with the dictionary form of the verb, also sometimes called the root. So like a verb like kur or kur, depending on your pronunciation, meaning to put, that would be the root or dictionary form of the verb. So if you're looking in the dictionary, that would be the form of the verb that you would see. It's a root of the verb. It's not technically an infinitive, but it's considered that just for the sake of translation to English, but it's the root of the verb. And then once you have that, if it starts with a consonant, add lenition if it can take it. So if it is a consonant that can take an H for lenition, you add that. If it can't, then you leave it alone. If it starts with a vowel, add D apostrophe to the beginning of the verb, and you're done. And then also the other thing, that's why it's so easy, is that's basically all there is to it. But if you turn it into a negative, you add near, so N-I-F-A-O-R, right here. You add near before the conjugated verb. So I put conjugated verb, meaning it should have lenition or a D apostrophe if it's needed. So those should be conjugated anyway. And then, or if it has a consonant, it should have the H added if it can take it. And then to turn it into a question, you want to add air before it, AR. So if you remember when we looked at questions with ta, the question was unwill or unvwill, depending on your pronunciation. In the present tense, you're most of the time going to have an, to add before a question in the present tense, but in the past tense, you have air. So AR, and as well as near. So just keep in mind that both the negative and question add-ons for the beginning, prefixes are going to end with R. So that can help you remember that. Also, don't forget when we went over last time that the words that are the verbs that are conjugated into the we pronoun type are going to have AMAR added or EAMAR. Now, you add AMAR when the last vowel in that verb root is broad. So it's an A, O, or U. If it's an I or an E, you have to add EAMAR. So that's just with Irish spelling has been standardized, and it has, slender with slender, broad with broad. That's how you can know on either side of a consonant that there needs to be matching broad or slender vowels most of the time. So you're going to use those endings instead of wit. So just in the we form only. So here's the example here. So if you start with quer, to put, it'd be quer may, to, she, shiv, shied. So all of those go together. So it's I, you, he, she, it, ye, they, put, past tense. And then for the we form, it's quermer.
So Horimer is the only one that becomes a contraction. So we put. In the past tense, it's Nirhorme. In the question form, it's Erhorshe. Did he put? So hopefully that helps with the past tense, so you can start practicing with those. Again, if you have any questions as to whether one may be irregular, if you haven't learned those yet or not, you can always go to tangon.ie, type in the root of the verb, or search for it with the English word and get to the root. Another way, you can go to folklore.ie and find the root as well, if that's easier. And then you can click on the more information or click on the grammar tab in Tanglon to have them conjugate it for you. And you can kind of see what that's going to look like if you're just then getting used to a certain verb. All right, so let's take a look at plurals. So we haven't talked too much about plural nouns yet, but in English, we more often than not add an S or an ES to nouns to make them plural, depending on the word. There are some exceptions, such as words like sheep or children, and a lot of times it can depend on what other language that word came from, whether it's Germanic, Latin-based, or things like that. So English is kind of all over the place, but generally it's add an S or an ES to a noun. In Irish, nouns fall into several different categories depending on their grammatical gender and like the endings of the word, and they fall into declension. So there is a link here I've provided to give you more understanding about declensions and which nouns fall into which ones. A lot of times you end up knowing how to change the noun for plural just by learning it with the singular when you learn the singular. So it's a really good idea that if you learn the word, turtur for turtle, that you know that turtur or turtir, depending on the pronunciation, is going to be turtles instead of turtur. So it changes because it adds the I to the end. It softens the ending of the word. But the main thing I wanted to mention to you is that when a really good way to tell a singular from a plural noun, even if they sound very similar, like turtle and turtles do, you can tell with the word the at the beginning. So if it is singular, the word the is un. If it is plural, the word the becomes na. So the word the actually changes in Irish depending on whether you're talking about one thing or multiple things. So just some tips there for that. And now we're going to talk a little bit about uru, or the eclipsis. So an uru we haven't really talked a lot about because it's a bit more complicated than the lenition that we talked about before. So I want to talk about it specifically with prepositions and the definite article. So there are many prepositions that cause lenition, which is the adding of the H after a consonant that can take it, before nouns that begin with consonants that can take them. So de, do, fui, o, riv, mar, tri, So all of those are prepositions, and Irish is very preposition driven. So it's very good to memorize these and their contractions with the pronouns, because many of them do have those. And so those will cause lenition, which is adding the H. So just getting some practice with practice sentences will help with that. I've linked a link to a document that will help with more info with that if you're studying that right now. But I want to talk about several of them. When the article un, the word the, is present, it causes uru or eclipsis, such as in the examples in the Cora. So I've linked another document here about uru, so you can take a look at that when you need to. Here are a couple examples, like Aaron Mord. So on the table. So on. When un is there, it adds the M before a B. And when the word leish, which is like with. So leish un. So the word the is there. It adds the G in front of Colleen. So it becomes leishin Galeen, with the girl. And so there are a few dialects where the rules for uru and eclipses seem to be flip-flopped or exchanged. But for the most part, you will see this, especially in anything that is written in somewhat standardized Irish or certain dialects as well. So you will see this much more commonly. There are more that do this, like, let's see, and there are a few that don't. So it's just a matter of getting used to them. I would say make some practice sentences, create your own sentences. It sticks in your mind a lot better that way. So just for that, again, if you need pronunciation or anything else, help-wise with words or conjugation or pronunciation, go to tanglin.ie or aber.tcd.ie, and those can help you as well. So, all right. So we've been going for about half an hour now, but I hope this lesson has really kind of pushed things up. If you're feeling at all a bit like I didn't grasp all of that, that's fine. And in fact, the more you go through the lessons, if you're consistently having a certain level of I can't grasp all of that just yet, that means you're stretching yourself, you're growing. So you can always break this down in the replay video piece by piece. You can go back and review previous lessons. And most of the time, if you've gotten this far, even if you feel a bit like it doesn't quite click for you yet with what we had in this lesson, I bet you that at this point, if you go back to some of the previous ones, a lot of it will have clicked already. So going back to previous lessons is always a good thing to kind of see how much you've grown or how much you've learned over time. It's a real pick-me-up to go to a previous lesson or go back to lesson 1 and be like, oh, I know this stuff. So I hope this lesson has been helpful. Again, subscribe and like the video. That always helps us. If you want to get on the email list where we're going to send out more notices and resources as we can, go to facebook.com/Gaeltacht Greenville, and you should hit our sign up button there. If you need the PDF, if you haven't already grabbed it, it is in the description of this video below. Most of the videos have all of the PDF links there. You can grab any of the other PDFs. They're completely free. Download them, use them as you like. They are just copyright Gaeltacht Greenville, so but you can use them for free. They are perfectly fine. And just to add, if you want to support us, we do have pens. One that has the phrase "Takupa Foko Agam." We have one that has Laurelum, which is speak with me, and we have one with our logo on it. And we do give those pins out to anyone who wishes to support us, give a little bit here and there, since we do want to do this for free and continue doing it for free. You can find us if you look at the description below. You'll see our email address, gaeltachtgreenville@gmail.com. If you send a donation to that email through PayPal, we will get it. If you put a note with that, with your name and address, we will send you the pins. The first pin is for anyone, for $10 and up. The first and second pin would go to anyone $15 and up, and the all 3 pins would go to anyone $25 and up. So we very much appreciate if you decide to help support us. All right. Ihiwa, everyone. Slán go fóill.